there, welcome back to the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast, your encyclopedia for the college basketball season. Today we are talking mid-season, mid-conference, conference power rankings, going over the top 5 conferences. The power conferences in college basketball will go in alphabetical order, rank them each top to bottom. It's tough. It is tough to do, but we're going to go through some of these. We'll talk about some of the resumes, why some are higher than others. Other conferences outside of the Power 5 will be noted because we did release a new Bracketology, so go check that out on our Instagram, on our Twitter, at Bracket Science with 2 S's. We're going to go over a Bracketology segment here. Of course, I always release Bracketologies on Thursday nights because it's usually slower on Thursday nights and not that much changes. So if you see it on Friday, usually not much has changed. Of course, we had about the biggest upset day of the season on Thursday, just randomly out of the blue. So some things are going to be changing a little bit. So we're going to talk about those results and some things that might have changed it. Going back, we'll talk about Tuesday's games, Wednesday's games, and Thursday's games just briefly before getting into the conference power rankings. So that's the layout for today. Results, power rankings, bracketology, and then, of course, we'll talk about the weekend slate of games. We got another loaded Saturday, as we will every day for the entire rest of the season, and we will talk about the opening KenPom betting lines. We'll be ad-free today, so be sure to like and subscribe. Remember, follow us on those social medias at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Go check it out. Got a nice bracketology post we just posted up, so if you want to take a little deeper look at it, go check that out. Let's go over some of the scores quickly. We're not going to dive in depth to some of these games, just some of the scores that led to the bracketology, that led to the conference power rankings. Going back to Tuesday, we had a lot of, once again, just a lot of upsets. We had a lot of ranked on ranked matchups, as we're going to see just about every time the SEC plays. So they have so many teams ranked in the AP Top 25, starting with number 15, Mississippi State lost to number 1 Auburn. Even without Jonai Broome, looked like the best team in the league, 88-66. Pure domination. Then the 2 surprising ones of the day. Number 21, Ole Miss. Chris Beard's team went to number 4 Alabama and held them to 64 points while getting an Ole Miss victory, 74-64. And then Missouri went to number 5 Florida and beat them on their home court as well, 83-82. Good stuff for Missouri and Ole Miss. Good for the SEC, quite frankly. I know you don't like to see your 2 top teams fall, but this just is leaning towards getting a record amount of bids in March Madness this year. Now, Marquette barely hung on to beat the best team in the Big East this year is Marquette. DePaul has not won a game in like 38 Big East games or something stupid like that, and DePaul almost got him. Marquette held off in overtime, 85-83. Some interestingly bad calls at the end of this game, leaning both ways. I mean, it was just ugly, kind of a poor officiated game, but Marquette ends up getting the win there, still in solid first place of the Big East. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. Number 8, Kentucky held off number 11, Texas A&M. Texas A&M without Wade Taylor in this game. Kentucky won at home, 81-69. The one we got to talk about, number 19, Illinois, went to Indiana and smashed them 94-69. They were up 30. At one point in this game, scored 60 in the first half. The Mike Woodson era is coming to a close. I know Indiana fans are going to be incredibly happy about that. This is ugly. This is embarrassing for Indiana. Let's move on. Ohio State lost at number 24, Wisconsin, 70-68. Wisconsin got off to a huge lead. Ohio State fought back. Wisconsin holds on. Wisconsin flying under the radar right now. They're really good. Number 25, Baylor lost at Arizona, 81-70. Arizona is rolling right now. They are back in like 6th seed range right now. We'll talk about them here in a bit. UCF went to Arizona State and beat them 95-89. Villanova lost at Xavier, 69-63. I have the scoreboard pulled up. You can kind of just look through them. We'll go through a couple of the other notable ones. Arkansas lost at LSU, 78-74. Arkansas stinks. First year might be a bust under John Calipari. And then Iowa lost at USC, 99-89. Let's move on to Wednesday. The main event was number 2, Iowa State, hosting Kansas at Hilton Coliseum. Iowa State beat up on them, 74-57. Iowa State looked like the better basketball team, quite frankly. Now, Hilton is one of those places where if you're showing a college basketball non-fan, someone who doesn't really follow it, and you're explaining to them why college basketball is so awesome, you show them Hilton Coliseum. This place was rocking. It was so loud. Iowa State gets the job done. Number 23, Georgia lost at number 6, Tennessee, Tennessee got the job done 74-56. Houston dominated West Virginia. No real surprise there. A few other notable results. Utah State, number 22 team in the country, lost at UNLV, kind of opening up the Mountain West race again, 65-62. Texas won at Oklahoma, battle of 0-3 teams who had pretty solid non-conferences. Both teams really needed it. Texas wins at their rival in the Red River rivalry, 77-73. Pitt lost a game that it cannot lose at Florida State. Pitt is sneaking towards the bubble. Pitt was 5th in the opening net rankings. They are fastly declining. Florida State wins 82-70. Credit to Florida State. They're better than I expected this year. Leonard Hamilton still got some juice. They're somewhat close to the bubble. Cincinnati won their first Big 12 game at Colorado, 68-62. Dayton lost again. Dayton stinks right now, 67-59 at home at Dayton. They get beat by George Mason. They are not rolling right now. Vanderbilt won on a buzzer beater, 66-63 over South Carolina, and Wake Forest beat Stanford. Wake Forest kind of rolling. Now, the day we said had the upsets on Thursday. Let's talk about these games. These are in, if you haven't noticed already, these are in just numerical order of ranked teams and then just kind of most notable after that. Number 16, Gonzaga loses at Oregon State. I had a question on Instagram about where's Oregon State when I released the Bracketology. I released it before this game. I'm like, probably first 10 teams out. They beat Gonzaga. Now where are they? They're right on the bubble. They are right there, 97-89 in overtime. This was a crazy game. Graham Ike hit a tying 3, and then Oregon State just dominated in overtime. Number 18, Memphis lost to Temple 81-88. I know that graphic says overtime. I'm just now realizing it. That game was not in overtime. That was in regulation. Number 20, Michigan, lost at Minnesota thanks to a Dawson Garcia, basically half quarter from the logo, 84-81. Crazy stuff there. Maryland lost at Northwestern. This was supposed to be the overtime game. Apologies for that. Northwestern beat Maryland 76-74 thanks to a Brooks Barnheiser, or was it Nick Martinelli? I'm sorry, I forget already. They knocked it down at the buzzer. Good win there for Northwestern. Maryland, 4-21 or something on the road under Kevin Willard's against like top 100 teams or something. I saw a stat on that. It was at Made for March on Twitter where I saw the stat, so credit to him, but that was a great stat, and I'm like, man, they really can't win on the road. Too much talent to be losing as much as they have been. They have a great roster. Rutgers won at Nebraska. Rutgers starting to figure some things out. Rutgers still not near the tournament conversation, but Nebraska is more to lose for Nebraska in this one. They lost 85-82. UTEP beat Liberty, the favorites in Conference USA, 72-70 at Liberty. Santa Clara lost at LMU, and High Point lost at Longwood. So if you notice, this graphic has 8 games on it. All 8 teams that lost were favored. So all 8 teams that won were underdogs in this game. It was a crazy Thursday, of course, as soon as a bracketology releases. A lot of things change. So keep that in mind as we go through these. But that's the only results. We got through those pretty quick. We're going to dive into the conference power rankings as of now. We're going to go alphabetical order. Let's go ACC, Big 12, Big East, Big 10, and then SEC. The ACC was fairly simple for me to rank, quite frankly. Duke is number 1 without a doubt. Louisville, we talked about Louisville on the last show as there's kind of a battle for who's the second best team in the ACC. It's between Louisville, North Carolina, Clemson, and Pitt, I would say. Now, Pitt has really fallen off, but Louisville has beat North Carolina. Louisville has beat Clemson. Louisville has beat Pitt. They're the second best team. I think you got to put them that way. I know head-to-head doesn't really mean that much, but in this scenario, it does. At third, I do have North Carolina kind of climbing back up in there. They're still they're up to 28th at KenPom right now, so they're starting to get back into things. Clemson right behind them. Clemson, North Carolina, however you want to put it. It's a coin flip. Clemson 6-1. Start off conference play. They look good. I did still leave Pitt at 5 because I still just think I kind of rank these based off of how if it was a neutral site game, who would be favored, if that makes sense. So if you were to put Pitt against Wake Forest, I think Pitt would definitely be favored in that game. Now, of course, that leads to some KenPom numbers because KenPom has a heavy influence. I still have Pitt. They had a great non-conference, 3-3 at number 5. I do have Wake Forest at number 6. Wake Forest starting to play better, entering the tournament conversation. They're a first couple teams out right now. SMU at 7, starting to fall off a little bit. Still 55th over at KenPom. I got Florida State in the top 8. I did not think I was going to say that. They're pretty good. They're not bad. Good for Leonard Hamilton. I thought they were going to be atrocious this year. They're not that bad. At number 9, Stanford. Stanford's going to be right in the middle. They're not that talented outside of Maxime Reynaud, or however you pronounce it, but Kyle Smith's a great coach. I think they'll be right about 500. Same goes for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's 2-4 in the conference right now, yet I gave them the 10 spot. I still just think if you put them up neutral site against any of these, I mean, it is actually incredible how bad the bottom of the ACC is. At number 11, I have Virginia Tech, and this is where the drop-off really starts. 11 through 18 is just, I mean, it's awful. Virginia Tech is 3-3. They're not that bad in the conference play. I came into conference ACC conference play thinking that Virginia Tech was the worst team in all of Power 5, quite frankly, but they're beating some even worse teams, quite frankly. And this isn't to say much. I mean, good for Virginia Tech. They're winning some games, but this is more just saying how bad the bottom of the ACC is. NC State's right behind them. NC State is horrible. They're 9-8, 93rd at KenPom. They're projected to go 8-12 in the conference. They're 2-4 right now. They're not good whatsoever. Georgia Tech, same thing. Georgia Tech's right there. Syracuse is like in the worst state the program has ever been in. They're 127th at KenPom. 127th. They're 8-9 on the year. They got to make a change there. I think it's coming. Virginia right behind them. They're 1-5 in conference play. Now, they're sneaky. I mean, their record's so bad in their KenPom ranking. They're 137th at KenPom right now. I couldn't put them ahead of any of these teams yet. I think if, say, SMU or Wake Forest were to go play at Virginia versus at Syracuse, I think Virginia has a better chance of knocking them off because, quite frankly, I think Ron Sanchez is better than Coach Autry over there, but neither team very good. Cal right there at 16. They're no good either. Boston College second to last. Who would have thought Miami is last? Miami's 4-13. They're horrible. Absolutely horrible. Now, Boston College net ranking at KenPom, their overall ranking is actually worse than Miami's, but Miami is just falling off a cliff right now. I don't think you cannot put them at last. Last thing I want to talk about with the ACC, let's just talk about the player of the year real quick. It's Cooper Flagg. Let's be 100% honest. He's minus 500 at FanDuel to win the Wooden Award. I think that's a little steep. I think you still have Jonai Broom if he gets back and healthy, but hey, good for Cooper Flagg. He's going to be your player of the year in the ACC, barring an injury or something unfortunate. Let's move on to the Big 12. Number 1 in the Big 12, I do have Iowa State. I think this is without a doubt your number 1 team in the Big 12 so far this year. I see the argument for Houston. Actually, I really don't. I do, but I don't. I know what people are saying. They're ranked higher in every computer metric. Iowa State has just been so much better so far this year. They're both I do have Houston at number 2, spoiler alert. They're both 5-0. I have Houston above Kansas and Arizona and Baylor without a quad 1 win. You just see it. You see it. The computers see it. They're really good. Their defense is good. They're playing a lot better as of late. Like, they played West Virginia yesterday. I know it was a home game, but West Virginia went in and beat Kansas, and they just left, no doubt. They're really good if you watch them play. They don't really have any key games until they play at Kansas, so it's going to be a little bit. I'm holding on Houston at number 2. Iowa State's number 1. 3, I do still have Kansas. Now, it might look like an outlier because they're 3-2. They lost that home game to West Virginia. Not good, but let's be honest. Upsets happen. Upsets happen. West Virginia is not better than Kansas, quite frankly. Every computer will tell you that. Kansas is still 7th at KenPom right now. They're still projected to go 14-6 and finish 3rd in the league. They're 3-2. They lost at Iowa State the other day, but I still have them as 3rd. I really considered putting Arizona 3rd. I will say that. Now, there's no way to drop Kansas below 4. I know they've been disappointing this year. You can't drop Kansas below 4. They're still better than Baylor and Texas Tech. But anyways, Arizona at number 4. They're 5-0 to start off their Big 12 career. They're up to 15 at KenPom. They are rolling right now. 1-7 in a row. They're looking really good. I got them at 4. I do have Baylor at 5th. This is where it kind of starts to get some gray area. I think Baylor's still the 5th best team. They're 3-2 in the conference, as is Texas Tech, who I have right next to them. Texas Tech actually favored over Baylor at KenPom in terms of overall efficiency. Texas Tech 17, Baylor 21, so you're kind of splitting hairs there. I just Texas Tech has picked up some quad one wins, but Baylor had the better non-conference. It's close. West Virginia at 7. West Virginia has a great resume. The computers won't like them as much. They're 41st at Ken Pom. Still look pretty good. BYU at 8th. This is where it's a little bit of a, I don't know. So right now, I have BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, Arizona State, all on the outside looking in. So right now you're looking at about a 7 bid Big 12. Definitely would have thought there'd be more teams out of the conference that has kind of dominated the college basketball realm until the SEC just took over this year. But BYU at 8th, they are 2-3. I still have Cincinnati at 9th. They're 1-4. I know they've played a tough schedule. They're so much higher ranked than West Virginia and even BYU at Ken Pom, because they were solid in beating teams in the non-con. They had a rough stretch. Just picked up a good win though at Colorado. Colorado, struggling. We'll talk about them here in a sec. At 10, I have UCF. UCF is 3-2 in the conference. Yes, it looks really good. Haven't played a particularly hard schedule, but in fact, they have played the second hardest strength of schedule in the Big 12. I stand corrected. It says that on Ken Pom. They've played that. Maybe move them up a little bit. UCF 3-2 at the second hardest. That can't be right. That can't be right. I'm not sure they are. They're 3-2 in the conference with the second hardest schedule. And, that's pretty good. Now they've played Texas Tech, who they beat on the road. I guess that's a huge one. They lost to Kansas at home by 50, which is kind of the turnoff point. Beat Colorado and beat Arizona State. Lost at Arizona. I don't know why they have the second hardest conference schedule, but UCF, they're doing well. They're on the bubble. I think they're a first couple team out as of right now. Arizona State, right after that, they have fallen off a cliff. You can really tell who's a good coach team and who's a bad coach team once conference play starts. Arizona State was in the tournament, and then as soon as conference play starts, they kind of just get worse. The team looks like they get worse. Indiana, Mike Woodson's team, they're looking like they're getting worse. Same goes for Arizona State. Kind of been Bobby Hurley critiques, but we gave them credit for a while as they were playing well early this year. Not anymore. They don't look like a tournament team right now. At 12, Utah. Utah has kind of overperformed for what my standards were this year. They're 10-6 on the year, 2-3 in the Big 12. I thought they were going to suck. They're not great, but they're not bad. TCU right behind them. Same goes for them. I thought they were going to be horrible. They're 2-3. They're 9-7 overall. Like, they're not really good, but they're still right there. I do still have Colorado at 14 above Kansas State and above Oklahoma State. Let's be honest, Colorado beat UConn. Colorado's ranked higher at Ken Pom. They're last in the conference in terms of record right now. They're 9-7. Oklahoma State's 9-7 overall as well. Kansas State is 7-9 overall, and quite frankly, I am so tired of expecting stuff of Kansas State. So I got Colorado, then Kansas State, then unfortunately Oklahoma State last there. Your Big 12 Player of the Year right now, according to Ken Pom, would be Hunter Dickinson. Is there some media bias against Hunter Dickinson? He's like top 5 in Ken Pom overall Player of the Year. I don't think that's the case. I don't think he's been a first-team All-American. To me, his team's disappointed from what they're kind of expected to do. I don't think so. I think they got Javon Small as second here from West Virginia. He's really good. He's an all Big 12 performer, no doubt. As of right now, I can't believe I'm saying this, I would give it to either Curtis Jones or Keyshawn Gilbert. Curtis Jones came off the bench for Iowa State to start the year. Now with the Milan Momcilovic injury, he's been forced in that starting lineup. He scored 20 in the first half against Kansas. He looks like their best offensive player. Keyshawn Gilbert might be more important, you can argue, but I would give it to either Curtis Jones or Keyshawn Gilbert. That kind of shows how good Iowa State is. But according to Ken Pom, it is Hunter Dickinson as of right now. All right, let's move on. Keeping going through this, moving on to the Big East. Big East, number one, no doubt about it, is Marquette. Marquette has been the best team in the Big East. They're highest ranked in the net. They're highest ranked at Ken Pom. They have the best record. They're 15-2 overall, 6-0 in the conference, looking at about a 2 seed right now in Bracketology. I do have UConn at number 2. I still believe UConn is the second best team in this conference. I see the argument for St. John's, who I do have as number 3. I still give a little bit of an edge to UConn. At 4, I do have Creighton. Creighton, 4-2. They have kind of impressed me. I came in as low as just about anyone. I think I had them preseason ranked as like as an 8 seed in the predictive bracketology to start the year. And they're worse than that, but they've impressed me more than I thought they would, if that makes any sense. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to end up in the tournament. They're 4-2 in the conference, still in solid fourth place. Villanova right behind them at 4-3. If Kyle Neptune wasn't there, how good could this team really be? They have some serious talent on that team. Luga Poplar, lockdown defender. Eric Dixon. If Eric Dixon played at UConn and was averaging his points, he would be like Cooper Flagg would be plus 2,000 to win Player of the Year instead of minus 500. Eric Dixon is that good. He's putting up huge numbers. He's just got some loyalty to Villanova, and I respect that no matter how bad they are. I love Eric Dixon. He is a fantastic player. Georgetown at 6th. Yes, Georgetown all the way up there. They're 3-3 in the conference, 12-5 overall. Ed Cooley's done a great job. Next year, this Georgetown team, if they continue to build at this rate, they're going to be really good. At 7, Xavier. Now, I struggled with Xavier and Georgetown, who to put above who. Georgetown's got the better resume. Xavier is favored at the predictive metrics by a little bit, barely. But Xavier's 3-4 in the conference. They're 11-7 overall. Now, Xavier, the issue with them has just been injuries, quite frankly, and it's hard to blame them for that, but it is a real thing. So they're down there. I got Providence at number 8. These are just kind of fill in the blank. Providence 8, Butler 9, DePaul 10, Seton Hall 11. Now, DePaul's still 0-7, but I think if you ask anyone in the country, they will say DePaul is better than Seton Hall because they are. They're better at every predictive metric. Seton Hall is not good. Not good at all this year. Now let's talk about the 2 best conferences in the country and the 2 hardest conferences to rank in the country. This is what I will say about the Big Ten as I pull up the graphic. The Big Ten, number 7 through 14, could be in just about any order. I think 1 through 6 is pretty, I'm pretty confident in those, but 1 through, even like, 7 through like 16 even, could go in any order. This is what I went with. I think Michigan State is definitely number 1 as of right now. I know they haven't really beat anyone, but as of now, they've been the best team in the conference. They're in sole possession of first right now in the conference at 6-0. They're 15-2, and they're killing teams. Now, we'll see really how good they are on Sunday. We'll talk about them in a second. I gave it to Purdue at number 2. They kind of fell off a little bit for a while, but Purdue starting to climb back up. They're beating teams, and they're beating teams badly. They got another big one on Saturday, which we'll talk about here in a second. Let's keep previewing and foreshadowing. They're 6-1 in the conference. They're 10th at KenPom right now. They're looking pretty good. I still gave it to Michigan at number 3, and they are in 3rd in terms of record in the conference right now. They just lost at Minnesota, as mentioned. Here's what I will say about Michigan. They're the most aesthetically pleasing team to watch, I think, in all of college basketball. Now, I know this, you can throw Kentucky and the Alabamas in that, but in terms of just like watching them and you're like, my goodness, they move the ball fantastic, it's Michigan. They look like they should be the best team in the country. They're not all the way there yet. They're dropping games they lose close games. They lost a close one to Arkansas, lost a close one to Wake Forest. Now they've lost a close one to Minnesota. I don't really know what it is, why it's not 100% clicking, because they're 13th in offensive efficiency in the country, 24th in defense. They're great on both sides. This team, when you look at them and with their talent, they should be like they're 13-4 overall. That's great. Don't get me wrong. They're like a 5 seed right now. But they seem like a team that could be like 16-1. That's that good. So I'm curious to see. They seem like a team that could really make the Final Four or could really lose in the first round. I'm not so sure. I would lean more like going on a run because I think Dusty May's great. I think Danny Wolf is awesome. I think they'll continue to get better as they have been. But I'm really intrigued by this Michigan team. At 4, I do have Illinois. Now, some people think Illinois is the best team in the Big Ten. I don't. They're the best ranked at KenPom. They're 8th in the country. I don't think they're the best team. I think they're good. I think they're going to be in the tournament, but I don't see them as a national championship contender. Don't tell Illinois fans that. They're not going to like it, but I think they're good, but to me, they just don't scratch the itch. I don't think they're all the way there. At number 5, I have Oregon. Oregon has as good a resume as anyone in the country. They're 4-2 in the conference. They're 25th at KenPom, though. They're not highly ranked at the net. They're not that high at Torvik. You're looking at a fringe 2-3 seed going forward. Big opportunity. We'll talk about them here in a sec. At number 6, I got Wisconsin to kind of just fill out the top third of this conference. They're 4-2, flying under the radar. They're really good. They're 20th at KenPom. They are really good. Do not sleep on Wisconsin. Now here's where it gets flimsy. I was filling this out in 1 through 6. I'm like, all right, this flows easily. And then I got to 7. I'm like, ugh. I gave it to Maryland because I think Maryland has the highest ceiling out of any of these other teams. They're 3-4 in the conference, really underperformed. They're still 24th at KenPom. Kevin Willard might not be the guy. I will say that I know Maryland fans are already starting to, after they lost at Northwestern last night, they're not real happy with Kevin Willard because of that road record, and kind of for a reason. I've never really thought he was the best, but with this team, they have so much talent. They shouldn't be losing. Shouldn't be 3-4 in the conference. They should be towards the top. We should be talking about them with the Illinois, and with the Michigans of the world. At 8, UCLA. I think they're 2-4 in the conference. We know they're good. They beat Gonzaga on a neutral. They got a lot of great non-conference wins. They're going through a rough stretch right now. I might be giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in this because of the whole situation that's going on in LA is just awful, and I can't imagine having to travel across the country when all that's going on. So keeping them at number 8 right now. I got Iowa at 9. They're 3-3 in the conference right now. They're looking like a fringe tournament team. I think the Big Ten's probably going to get at least 9 bids this year. Penn State at 10. They're 2-5. They have really fallen off now. I kind of spoke, not to toot my own horn, before this went down. I'm like, I don't think Penn State is really as good as the record showing. They start off 10-1. They beat Purdue, and then I don't really see this team as like, they're a sneaky team to make a deep run. I think they're okay. I think they're a good basketball team. I think they're going to be on the bubble, but yeah, I see them as a bottom half Big Ten team. Same goes for Indiana. Indiana's 4-3 in the conference, but you cannot overlook that they have just gotten absolutely murdered the last 2 games. Got drilled by they just got drilled by who were we just talking about? Illinois, and then they got drilled by Iowa. The one was at Iowa, but the game against Illinois was at home. It's just ugly. 4-3. They were 4-1 and then got beat by a million. So you got to drop them. They don't look like a good team at all. They are currently projected to go 8-12 in the Big Ten, according to KenPom. They're 57th at KenPom. Every year, KenPom ranks teams preseason, and so there is a little bit of a preseason bias at KenPom. If you don't want preseason bias, you can go to Torvik. KenPom is, quite frankly, more used, I will say, and more popular, and the betting lines really are influenced by KenPom. Every year, Mike Woodson's team are ranked high, and then they go down. Every single year, he underperforms. Indiana, it's time to move on. It's going to happen. I don't think there's any coming back from this unless you make like a Final Four run and go dominating, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. At number 12, I have Nebraska. Nebraska right there. Look at all these teams that are like 2-4, 2-5, 3-3. They're all close. I gave Nebraska because I think they've got a pretty good non-conference resume, winning at Creighton. They beat UCLA. They've got a pretty good resume going. 13, Ohio State. I don't think this Ohio State team, unfortunately, might end up in the tournament. They don't look as good as I kind of had low. I was giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt to start the year. New coach. They just don't look the part to me, quite frankly. They were ranked. They beat Texas early in the year. Now Texas, that win has aged not as well as you would think because they have their own coaching problems of their own. But Ohio State 2-4, too big a brand. Ohio State should be towards the top of the Big Ten. Northwestern at 14. Like, Northwestern probably shouldn't be 14, right? Like, they have beaten Maryland. They have beaten Illinois. Those are your 2 conference wins. They should probably be higher. I don't know. These teams are all so similar. I got Northwestern at 14. 15, USC. USC's 3-3 in the conference. They had a rough non-conference. They were just didn't really perform up to expectation, but they're starting to figure some things out. 16 Rutgers. Rutgers had a horrible non-conference, but they're 3-4. They have a better record than Ohio State, Nebraska, Northwestern, even UCLA. And in fact, they just won at Nebraska, but Nebraska's got so much better of a resume. That's why this is so difficult. Might have picked the wrong time to a conference power rankings. At 17, Minnesota up a spot. I moved Minnesota above Washington. I think both teams just kind of exist in the Big Ten and will definitely be the bottom two teams in the Big Ten, according to just about everyone you will talk to. Big Ten Player of the Year. As of right now, the top two at KenPom, Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn. How about that? First team would be Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Danny Wolf, John Tanji, and Kasparis Jassionis from Illinois. So that's your all-conference team over at KenPom. I might lead Braden Smith. I really think I might. Jassionis has been fantastic. Now, you might also just kind of lean towards the best player on the team who wins the conference. Michigan wins the conference. Could very easily be Danny Wolf. Jassionis from Illinois, they win the conference. Oregon wins the conference. You're looking at maybe a Jackson Shellstad and Nate Biddle. Derek Queen, even in that conversation, although they've already lost 4 games, has Maryland. So they're right there. I don't think we mentioned the Big East Player of the Year. It's Eric Dixon or Cam Jones. Those are your literal only 2 options. Moving on to the SEC. Let's save the best for last, the best conference in college basketball. Number 1 is Auburn, no doubt about it. They're undefeated, 4-0. They're the best team in the country in terms of resume right now, and they are number 1 at KenPom. 2 through 6, what do you do? What do you do with these teams? I would be curious to rank them, create a survey of people to rank them. I have no clue. I think you have to put Florida at 5 because just the record's 2-2. They just lost at home to Missouri, which is the worst loss out of any of these teams have had. But Florida dominated Tennessee. I still have Tennessee at number 2, and actually Tennessee is the second best ranked team over at KenPom. Tennessee will be a 1 seed, or not will be, is a 1 seed as of right now when we'll talk about our bracketology. I have Kentucky at 3. When teams were losing at home, Alabama lost at home, Florida lost at home, Kentucky took care of business at home against Texas A&M. I know they were without Wade Taylor. Kind of just says something about Kentucky. I got Kentucky at 3, Alabama at 4. Alabama just with that tough loss to Ole Miss. So Auburn and Ole Miss are your only 2 undefeated conference play teams in the SEC. Should they be moved up? I think it's still the top 5 and then Ole Miss, but maybe they're, getting into that conversation. Alabama at 4, Florida at 5, Ole Miss at 6, 7 Texas A&M, 8 Mississippi State. That's pretty much about as big of a coin flip as you can do. Both teams been very solid looking at top seeds. 9, moving on to the bottom half, and the bottom half would be the top half of most conferences. Missouri's 3-1. Missouri looks really good. They're in the tournament right now. They're up to 33rd at KenPom, projected to go 10-8 in the conference. You go 10-8 in the SEC, you're probably looking at about a 6 or 7 seed with their resume. At number 10, I do have Georgia. Georgia's ranked 23rd in the country. I got them 10th in this. They're 2-2 in the conference. Beat Kentucky, who we just talked about, as doesn't lose to teams that they really shouldn't. Georgia beat them. At 11, Texas. Texas up. I had them a little lower, but that win at Oklahoma really carrying some weight there. They're 1-3 in the conference. Not bad. At 12, I have Vanderbilt. People are going to put Vanderbilt a little lower. Vanderbilt has put together a great little resume. They're projected to go 6-12 in the conference at KenPom because, there's got to be some bias there, right? It's Vanderbilt. You're not used to them being this good, but they are. They've been fantastic. They're 54th at KenPom. They're 14-3 overall. They look like a tournament team. They'd be in right now. At 13, I do still have Oklahoma at 13. They're 0-4 in the conference. Someone asked me about Oklahoma. They're like, how can you still have them in the tournament? Their non-conference was so good. Their wins above bubble is, their non-conference win above bubble. Someone fact-checked me. I'm pretty sure it was 8th overall, which is fantastic. That's 2 seed range. In the non-conference, though, obviously going 0-4 in the conference, your wins above bubble are going to fluctuate a little bit in the overall look. I still have them there. They're projected to go 6-12 in conference play, which means they would have to go 6-8 over their next couple games. If they do that and go 6-12, I think they're going to be in the tournament. I really do. I think that would be the instance where a 6-12 team gets in the tournament. 7-11, you're going to be in the tournament. Same goes for Texas. 7-11, you're probably in the tournament. 6-12, you're cutting it close. You're cutting it close. At 14, LSU. LSU, I was starting to get a little antsy that this team might sneak towards getting into the tournament. They're not out of it. They're 1-3. They have a better record than Oklahoma, than Arkansas, than South Carolina. They have the same record as Texas. They're not quite there yet, but they're getting there. They're projected to go 5-13 in the conference, go 7-11, give yourself a chance, go 8-12, or excuse me, 8-10 because they only play 18 games. You're looking at maybe a tournament team there. Arkansas at 15, I think this team is going to just fall off a cliff. They look like a poorly coached team. They look like they don't even want to be there. They have no sort of flow, no identity. They're not very good. I don't think they're going to end up in the tournament. And at 16, unfortunately, just by default, South Carolina. South Carolina 73rd at KenPom. 73rd. That's a top, well, would do some quick math, top fifth of the country, and they're last in the SEC. That's just saying how good this conference is. They're projected to go 4-14. They were 10-3 in the non-con. If they go 500, which is highly unlikely, they'd have to go 9-5. They'd probably still be in the tournament, but not a bad team. They're still a good team. The player of the year in the conference right now would definitely be Janai Broome. Hopefully, he doesn't miss too much time to kind of lose that edge for that conference. But SEC, so fun to watch. How would you rank them? Please let me know. 1 is Auburn. Anyone telling me otherwise is wrong. 2 through 6, rank them. I have no clue. It's about as close as it gets. Let's move on to our bracketology. Let's talk some bracketology here. Not too much because things have changed. 1 seeds, you're looking at your 1 seeds right now with Auburn, Iowa State, and Duke as winning their conference, getting a 1 seed, then Tennessee as the 4th 1 seed. They have the 4th best resume right now. They're not in resume/metrics that all contribute. Alabama as the first number 2 seed, even with that loss to Ole Miss. Kentucky as the next 2 seed, Marquette, and Oregon right there. Marquette went in the Big East. Florida, Kansas, Michigan State, and Texas A&M as your 3 seeds. I forgot to mark Michigan State. I have winning the conference, so they should have a little star next there. Purdue, Ole Miss, Illinois, Houston, some extremely scary 4 seeds. Now, I know I just said Illinois might not be, I don't see them as like a national championship contender. That's still a team I would not want to face in the tournament. Imagine having to face Houston as a 4 seed in the tournament. That sounds awful. If you're Tennessee and you win your first game, you win your 8-9 game, and then you get Houston, that sucks. Houston would probably be favored in that game. 5 seeds, Memphis, which will drop because they just lost that game to Temple. As we mentioned, Mississippi State as the next 5 seed, Michigan, which will probably drop to a 6 seed. Maybe. I haven't even looked if that Minnesota game, I think it's a quad 2 loss. UConn as the next 5 seed. So expect UConn to move up. Same for Mississippi State. Honestly, probably, because starting off the 6 seeds, Gonzaga lost as well. So I don't know. Probably still Memphis as a 5 seed, even with that loss, because they have just racked up wins that they needed. So Gonzaga as the first 6 seed, Wisconsin right there. Same with Arizona and Baylor as your next 6 seeds. 7 seeds, how about Louisville? Louisville a 7 seed, the second best resume in the ACC. West Virginia as your next 7 seed. Missouri right there as well. Same with Utah State as the favorite to win the Mountain West. 8 seeds, North Carolina, San Diego State, Georgia, and St. John's. Some sneaky, really good 8 seeds in that scenario. I sure would not want to face North Carolina as an 8 seed. They made the national championship game as an 8 seed and led by a ton at the half before blowing it, but led in an NCAA championship game as an 8 seed. You don't want to face them. San Diego State, you never want to face them in the tournament. Georgia, really good team this year. St. John's is one of the teams where the metrics would have them as like a 5 seed. They just haven't racked up too many great wins, so I sure would not want to face St. John's. 9 seeds, Oklahoma right in there, still in the conversation. I still have them as a 9 seed. I know they're 0-4. They won the battle for Atlantis. They've got a lot of good wins. Nebraska right there, they're going to drop a little bit after that tough loss, maybe down to a 10 or even an 11. Vanderbilt at a 9 seed, they're in. Maryland, same thing, probably going to drop to a 10. Pitt as your first 10 seed, Texas Tech in the tournament. UCLA hanging on by a thread, and Clemson right there. 11 seed, the last team in, St. Mary's getting a bye. I think St. Mary's in first in the WCC right now. The first 4 games, I have Texas taking on Iowa. Texas versus Iowa, and Ohio State versus Creighton. 2 teams that, or 4 teams that, big brands in the basketball community. So could be sneaky teams to win a game. UC Irvine as the next 11 seed, as the best mid-major winner of, the one big league winner. UC Irvine, they're up to 47th in the net. They're really good. 12 seeds, VCU out of the A10 as Dayton has fallen off a cliff. Drake out of the Missouri Valley, McNeese out of the Southland, and Liberty right there. They might drop to that first 13 seed after that home loss. Yale as your 13 seed. Could they move into the 12 seed with the Liberty loss? I'd have to crunch the numbers. Lipscomb right there. Arkansas State, who beat Memphis at home as a 13 seed. Samford in there as well. 14 seeds. High Point just lost at home as well. Or they lost on the road, I think. But still, High Point. Expected them to be in the 12 seed conversation. Haven't been there. Same goes for Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, not a 14 seed I would want to play. Now, I say this just about every time we do a bracketology, but I'll just remind you, this is predicting all of the favorites win. So say Yale doesn't win the Ivy and Brown wins the Ivy. Grand Canyon would be ranked ahead of that. So there's a lot of jumping. Like, it's, I would say, less than 50% of the favorites usually end up winning the conference tournament to get in. So keep that in mind. Like if, High Point doesn't win, Grand Canyon will obviously jump whoever wins. South Dakota State as your next 14 seed. Purdue, Fort Wayne as the final 14 seed. Akron, the Zips, overtaking Kent State for me in the Mid-American Conference. Charleston, 15 seed seems low. Same boat. Grand Canyon doesn't win the WAC. Charleston jumps whoever does win the WAC. So you're probably looking at a 14, 13 seed. That's why these seeds might seem a little bit off. Northern Colorado as a 15, and Bryant, the Bulldogs, as the last 15. Starting off the 16s with Norfolk State, Central Connecticut State, and in a playing game, Colgate. Why did we ever doubt that Colgate was not going to win the Patriot? They're probably going to win the Patriot. They do it every year. Colgate and Merrimack in a playing game, and then Southern and Little Rock in a playing game. That's the entire bracketology. Obviously, things are going to change. Unfortunately, sorry about all those upsets on Thursday, but we love it. We'd love to see upsets. But go check it out on our Instagram, Bracket Science, 2 S's. Let's get into the games to watch for the weekend. Now, we're recording this about just a little bit before noon on the East Coast on Friday, so we do have Friday games to talk about. Providence travels to Villanova at 7 o'clock on FS1. Villanova favored by 8.5 in that one. Villanova cannot afford to lose that one. 7 o'clock on ESPNU. VCU has a sneaky one at Billy Lang, St. Joseph's. When is St. Joe's going to move on from Billy Lang? That's a question that we can get into another time. Too much talent to be not towards the top of the conversation to win the A10 is St. Joe's. VCU favored by 1.5. A desperation game. The game of the night on Friday. 8 o'clock on Fox. Indiana travels to Ohio State. Ohio State's favored by 7. 7 points over Indiana. And Ohio State's not that great. My goodness, what has happened to Indiana? It's so sad to see. They were chanting Fire Woodson chants. It is a freaking mess. Ohio State favored by 7 in that one. Ohio State needs a win bad. Indiana needs a win desperately bad. Curious to see how that one goes. At 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, DePaul travels to Georgetown. Georgetown favored by 9. Can DePaul get their first win in forever in the Big East? We'll see. 9 o'clock on FS1, Iowa, right in that play-in game at UCLA, who has fallen off. Favored by 7.5. 9 o'clock FS1. UCLA favored. Feel bad for UCLA, what they're going through, so keep that in mind. 11 o'clock on FS1. Boise State travels to New Mexico. Great game here in the Mountain West. Mountain West after dark. Always entertaining. Boise State has started to play a lot better. They were my pick to win the Mountain West in the preseason. Did not get off to a great start. They did beat Clemson, but outside of that, pretty rough non-conference. But they're getting back in the conversation. New Mexico is favored by 3. I think Boise State's going to win. Give me Boise State. Moving on. Let's talk about Saturday, because Saturday is absolutely loaded, and we get another top 10 matchup before 1 o'clock, before 12:30 at noon on ESPN. These games are separated. We have 15 that we're going to talk about on Saturday. Separated into must-watch games and under-the-radar games. All are pretty good, but these are the ones you really want to pay attention to at noon ESPN, number 4, Alabama travels to number 8, Kentucky. Kentucky favored by 1 at KenPom. If there's a game you want to show an NBA fan who criticizes college basketball, this is the game. This game might be 100-100. Both teams really score the ball. Neither team too fantastic on defense. This is going to be an absolute shootout. I can't wait to see what that over-under is when it comes out. If it comes out at like 174, that's 87 a piece. I'm taking the over. I think it's going to be an absolute just show-out game. At 12 o'clock on Fox, Creighton travels to number 14, UConn. UConn favored by 7 in that one. At 12 o'clock on the CW, yes, the CW. A battle for the top of the ACC, towards the top, definitely not the top. Duke is the top. Clemson travels to Pitt. Pitt needs it probably more than Clemson. Clemson's resume might not be as great as Pitt's, but Pitt is falling quickly. They need a redeeming win here and a confidence-boosting win. Big opportunity, Pitt favored by 2. At 1 o'clock on the SEC Network, we have a ranked-on-ranked matchup. Number 1, Auburn travels to number 23, Georgia. Auburn favored by 10 in that one. Joe Nybroom probably not going to play in this one because Auburn has a week off after this game. They don't play until the following Saturday. So get through this game. If Auburn can pick up a win and go 2-0 against ranked teams without Joe Nybroom and get him back, yeah, that's pretty good. That is really good. Auburn favored by 10. The line will not be as big because Joe Nybroom not playing. 1 o'clock on CBS. I didn't know to add this to the must-watch games or not because it's probably going to be a blowout, but it's a huge rivalry. Kansas State travels to number 9, Kansas. Kansas favored by 19. My goodness, what is going on at Kansas State? 19 points. Kansas might beat them by 60 for all I know. They might also be close in a rivalry game. Who knows? 1 o'clock CBS, 2 o'clock on ESPN2. A sneaky, really good and really important game. Arizona travels to Texas Tech. Texas Tech favored by 4 at KenPom. Arizona has not lost in the Big 12. Texas Tech needs that real defining win to get back into getting into single-digit seed range. At 3 o'clock on NBC, yes, NBC, not Peacock, NBC. Number 17, Purdue travels to number 13, Oregon. Purdue's been rolling. Oregon's been squeaking by. Oregon favored by 1 at KenPom. That's going to be a good one. And at 6 o'clock on ESPN2, another rivalry game. Number 21, Ole Miss travels to number 15, Mississippi State. Mississippi State coming off that loss. They're favored by 3 in that one. Ole Miss coming off that huge win against Alabama. Moving on to the under-the-radar games. Some games to keep in mind, but have the other one on your volume, on the multi-view on YouTube TV. Other ones on volume, this just on the side. Number 10, Houston travels to UCF. Remember UCF? We're talking about being a legit candidate to get an at-large berth. 12 o'clock, CBS Sports Network. Houston favored by 13 on the road. 2 o'clock on Fox. Xavier with a key opportunity to pick up a huge win at number 7, Marquette. Marquette favored by 10 in that game. At 2 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. Arizona State needs a win bad. Travels to Cincinnati, who also needs wins bad. Cincinnati favored by 7 in that one. At 3:30 on the SEC Network. Number 6, Tennessee travels to Vanderbilt. Watch out for that one. Watch out for Vanderbilt. I know that you just kind of look at the name, and Vanderbilt hasn't been great in recent years. They're good this year. This is a sneaky one. Tennessee is favored by 7 on the road at KenPom, but keep your eyes on that one. At 4 o'clock on ESPN2, Texas. It's not getting any easier for them. They travel to number 5, Florida. Florida coming off a home loss. I don't expect them to have another home loss in this one. They're favored by 11. 5 o'clock on ESPN+. Number 2, Iowa State travels to West Virginia. West Virginia, we know no one wants to play them, especially on their home court. Iowa State only favored by 6 in that one at KenPom. At 6 o'clock on ESPN2, Arkansas. Will they get their first win in conference play under John Calipari? Travels to Missouri. Missouri favored by 5, coming off that huge win over Florida. If Missouri beats Arkansas in this game, Missouri's going to be ranked, and they deserve to be ranked if they get the job done in that one. Then finally, just quickly, on Sunday, the games to watch. Starting at 12 o'clock, Nebraska travels to Maryland. Both teams need a win. That's on the Big Ten Network. And then the game of the day at 12 o'clock on CBS, number 19, Illinois. A lot of people think they're the best team in the conference. Travels to number 12, Michigan State. Michigan State is atop the Big Ten standings as of right now. Michigan State's favored by 2 in that one over at KenPom. At 2 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, Northwestern coming off that big win over Maryland. Can they keep it rolling? Traveling to number 20, Michigan. Michigan's favored by 10 in that one. Big opportunity for Northwestern. Michigan coming off a loss, though. 5 o'clock on ESPN, TCU travels to number 25, Baylor. Baylor favored by 12 in that one. That's it. That's the games to watch this weekend. We'll be back on, we'll talk to you again on Monday at some point, maybe Tuesday. We'll see what's going on. I haven't looked at the slate yet on Monday. There's a lot going on. Mondays have been very slow this year in college hoops, but Tuesdays and Wednesdays have been just absolutely thrilling. So we'll be back to talk about that. We're going to go probably just have a normal episode where we talk about our new layout. For those who didn't catch the last show, is instead of, like, we're going to have special shows like this, like conference power rankings, All-American, stuff like that. But our typical layout is going to be just talking about the results, doing some bracketology, doing some rankings, and then just the games to watch for the week. But then we will, of course, have special ones like this, like the conference power rankings, even though it was very, very tough to rank these teams and these conferences. So that's going to do it. Stay tuned. Hit those post notifications to be notified whenever something goes live. Stay up to date in the college basketball world. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Everyone have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy some college hoops. Take a day off on Saturday. Relax. Eat some food. Watch some hoops. Everyone take care. See you later.